Do you feel like you're always working, whether you're checking your phone at the dinner table or you're sending one last email, or in general, you're feeling like you're always thinking about work? If so, you're going to love today's video because I'm going to show you how to take back your time, accomplish more in your business without actually feeling the stress and the overwhelm. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I help business owners figure out how they can reduce their work week by at least 10 hours every week without having to be more disciplined or to try harder. The biggest opportunity for my clients to figure out how to regain some time in their work week is to master the art and skill of delegating. There's only 168 hours in the week. No matter who you are, that's all there is. And some of that time you're actually sleeping. So you will need to figure out, how do you get more done without you actually doing more? Because at some point you hit capacity. And the way to do that is to delegate. And it's hard. Like, there are a number of reasons that my clients don't delegate. It could be that they feel it's easier to do the task themselves. Sometimes they don't delegate because they feel like if they were a real business owner, they would do everything themselves. Or they feel guilty that they're going to have to give someone the grunt work, or, there's stuff in everyone's business that they don't love doing, and they feel guilty giving that to someone else and not doing it themselves. They're also afraid that, their staff aren't going to be able to do it as well as they can, or that they're going to drop the ball at the last minute. And at some point, all of those things could be true, but delegating is a skill. And when you can learn the skill, those things aren't true, and you can overcome that. The biggest thing that holds my clients back, once they can walk through and work through those objections, is that they just don't have time to figure it all out. They've tried it before, it took too long, it didn't work smoothly. And so it just takes a lot of time to figure out, what are you going to delegate? Who are you going to delegate to? How does that whole thing look? So I'm going to share with you a 3-step process on how you can easily delegate. Because here's this thing, you weren't born knowing already how to delegate. You get to learn how to delegate. And then once you master it, you're able to replicate this over and over and over and over again. This process is a unique process called Delegate Like a Pro process that we teach here at Impactive Strategies. And this works with all business owners, regardless of the size of business, how long they've been in business, how many team members they have. And it's easily customizable, and you can just rinse and repeat, do it over and over and over again. Because we know that when we do more of what works and less than what doesn't, life gets a lot nicer. So let's talk about the process. The first part is who. The second part of the process is what. And the last part of the process is how. So let's start in the who. Who do you have available? Maybe you are a solopreneur and you're like, I can't delegate. I don't have anyone to delegate to. Or maybe you have a number of team members and you're like, I can't delegate to any of them. They're all at capacity. Well, that's what you need to figure out. So you want to start to figure out, who do you have that's available? Whether they currently work with you, whether they are freelancers or someone you can outsource to, or friends, family, neighbors, people in your networking groups. Like, who is on your bench? Who's on your resource bench that you can delegate to? Once you start to identify all these people, then you start to go through each person objectively and just look at, what are their skill sets? What are the things that they're really good at, that they're uniquely talented at? And grab that. Maybe they have very specific skills to your industry. Maybe their greatest skill is the fact that they are teachable and coachable and that they get along well with people. So you're looking at skills, and you're also looking at personality as you're making a list of all the resources you have available to you, and then the skills that each one of those people have. Then the second part is you're looking at capacity. How much time do they actually have to devote to a project? Often when people think about delegating, they think they have to bring a full-time person on staff immediately, 40 hours a week. That's not the case at all. You can go ahead and bring someone on for 10 minutes a day or 3 hours a week, or small to large. And so let's look at capacity of people already around you, capacity of some of the people that you've put on your list. How much time do they realistically have to devote to your projects? Now, how do you figure that out? Just ask them. What are the things you love to do? What are some of the unique skills that you have? What are you really good at? And then you can also ask them, how much time do you have? One of my clients recently, as we were looking at workflow and who she had available to her to do certain things, I was like, okay, so you have a staff of 3. And she goes, well, actually, I kind of look at it more as a staff of 4. And I was like, oh, did you hire someone since we last spoke? And her answer was, well, no, but I have a staff member who wants extra hours. And so she is willing to work in the evenings. And so I consider almost 2 people, the work she can get done while she's here, and then the work she can get done on the evenings and weekends because she wants the overtime. And so she would not have known that had she not asked who has more capacity. And it doesn't always mean that when you're looking at capacity, that they have to work extra hours, but I have yet to find a client whose every single person on their team is maxed out on what they get done in a day. When we're talking about unique skills and why you'd want to ask, it's very easy to pigeonhole people into the role they currently have without thinking, could they do other things? So an example, one of my clients has a bookkeeper. And when she asked people, what are things you like to do? What skills do you have that maybe we aren't utilizing? She found out that her bookkeeper actually has a minor in marketing and loves photography. And so she was able to take the social media and move it over to her bookkeeper because she had some extra available time. You don't find that stuff out without asking. The second step in our process is what? What are the things that you should delegate? And I actually look at it backwards. When we teach this to clients, what we look at is, what is their zone of genius? What are the activities that they are uniquely gifted at, that they love to do, and that move the business forward? And think of it as a Venn diagram, and you're looking for that overlapping part. That's their zone of genius. Those are the tasks that they keep. Everything else they can delegate to someone else. Now, easier said than done. Right now, you can be thinking, all right, I've got about 5 tasks that are in my zone of genius. I do 2,500 things a day. How am I delegating all the rest of those to someone else tomorrow? It doesn't work that way. And so what you want to do instead is pick one thing that you do most often that has a process that you can easily document and transfer that first. Then you find the next thing you do often, has a process that's easy to document, and you transfer that off your plate. The idea of zone of genius isn't necessarily something that people think about all the time, or is even necessarily easy to identify. I want to give you a couple of examples of what your zone of genius may be. So one of my clients owns a service-based business, and her zone of genius is that she is a compassionate truth teller. And what that means is often she has to tell clients what they need to hear, and it's not always what they want to hear. She works in elder care, and sometimes you have to have the hard conversations when you're in that elder care space. And she is able to do that in a way where it's exceptionally compassionate, and the clients understand their options. They understand which option is probably the right fit for them, even if it's not the option that they were hoping for. And she can do that in such a kind way. That is her zone of genius. There are a lot of things that come up that lead up to her being able to have that conversation with people that she doesn't necessarily have to have her fingers in. A lot of paperwork and visiting facilities, etc. But that conversation with the client saying, here's what we recommend, here's why, and then being able to have those continuing conversations about why what they're recommending isn't what they were hoping, that's her zone of genius. Another example, one of my clients owns a graphics design agency, and her zone of genius is being able to bring your vision to life. That's her zone of genius. She is excellent at a lot of things, a lot of technical things, but being able to identify, here's what you're saying you need, here's your brand, here are the things that we can do to help take what you're thinking, which is probably not super clear in your head right now, and turn it into this vision that we can move forward. That is invaluable. That's her zone of genius. That's where she doubles down on her time. When I look at what's my zone of genius, my zone of genius is being able to cut through the chaos to be able to create a path and a plan and a structure to move forward. So the best thing that I can do in my business right now is to work with clients, is to listen to them share why they're overwhelmed, why they tried certain things and they worked or they didn't work, how frustrated they are that they're going back to work at night when everyone else is in bed, or getting up earlier, sneaking away, trying to get a couple hours on a Saturday to get more work done, and what it is they're doing and all of those things. And then when they're done, I can see, here's the answer and here's how we get there. I advise you right now to start to think about what's your zone of genius? Where should you be spending the time? And then all those other activities that you can move to someone else. Now that leads us to the third part in our process: who, what, and now how. And when we get into the how piece, basically what we're trying to do is figure out, how do we get the information from our head into someone else's head easily without requiring a lot of questions, without requiring them to read our mind. And this part is broken up into 3 pieces. The first part we call prep. This is the part where you are preparing to have your meeting with the person that you're going to delegate to. And we walk through the 4 steps in prep. Then we have the second part of that process, which is table. We're setting the table for their success. And you walk through 5 steps in table. These are the things we need to do during the meeting that we're having with them. And then finally, the last step is rewind. And this is what happens when the project is over. Because again, we learned so much more from looking back and saying, what worked, what didn't work, what can we do, how can we adjust? And so we go through those 6 steps in rewind. Once you're able to prepare before you meet with a person, know exactly what to say when you meet with them, and then how to debrief the project once it's over, you can take that and just replicate it over and over and over again. We call it the delegating blueprint. So many times when we're delegating, myself included, we just say, hey, please go do this thing. Or, shoot an email out and say, I need you to do this. And then that's it. And then, a week later, we're like, I don't understand why it wasn't done the way we wanted it to be done. So instead, you go through your process of, here's what I do before we meet. Here's what I do when we meet. Here's what I do at the end. So let me give you just one example from those stages, and it's about capturing a process. So earlier I stated, what's the first thing that you should delegate out is something that you do over and over again that has an easy process to capture. How do you capture that process? The best way is you use some sort of screen share technology. I really like Loom. I'll also sometimes use Zoom. But the idea is that as you're working through the process, you're just recording it right there on the computer and you're talking about what you're doing. So when you're done, the person you're delegating to has a step-by-step guide on how you can handle things. Early in this video, I shared that one of the things that holds people back from delegating is the belief that it's easier to do it all themselves. That is true the first time. It absolutely is easier for you to do it yourself. And you will never regain time. You remember there's 168 hours in the week. You're never going to gain that time back until you're able to move things off your plate to someone else. And so it'll take longer at the beginning. We say it usually takes about 3 times more to delegate it to someone the first time than it does for you to actually do it. But you regain that time back after they've done the task a couple times. Another reason that business owners will hold on to tasks is they feel guilty delegating them out. They think, this is grunt work, or no one really wants to do this, and I feel bad making someone do it. In reality, we all have different zones of geniuses. Some of the things I hate to do, people on my staff love to do, and vice versa. The things you're feeling guilty about passing off could be something that makes their week because they love to do that task. So find that out. There's a belief, especially when starting out, that to be a good business owner, you need to own all the tasks. You need to do everything yourself. You need to have your fingers in every pot. Anything else that I can think of to reference that. And that's not really accurate, because again, with that mentality, your capacity is limited and you can only grow so much. It doesn't mean that you don't need to know what's going on in your business, but you definitely don't have to be intimately involved in each piece. You want to be the business owner, not the business worker. You want to own the business, not be the one doing all the day-to-day tasks. And then finally, so many times people will say to me when we're talking about delegating is, I'm afraid that people can't do this as well as I can. And that's probably true. They probably can do it as well as you can, because you've had 5 years, 10 years, 15 years doing it. You weren't born knowing how to do it that well. You've just had practice over and over again to do it. And it's so easy as business owners to forget that when we first started doing the tasks, we made mistakes, we messed up. And we expect the people that we delegate to be perfect and to not make any mistakes and to do it faster than us and better than us. And here's the thing, they will do it better than us. They will do it faster than us because they are able to devote their whole time and attention and energy to doing that task. Whereas business owners, we're wearing a lot of hats, we're doing a lot of things. We just need to give them a strong framework so that they can go and do the task and support them until they get it done well and done right. So a couple final thoughts when it comes to delegating. Start today making plans for how you're going to move things off your plate and onto someone else's. Start with the who spot. Who can you delegate to? Who are the people that are on your bench? Who are your resources? Then move to the what. What are the items that you want to keep? And what are the items that you're going to move to someone else? And then finally, the how. How are you easily going to get this information out of your head and into someone else's so that they don't ask a lot of questions? Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet so you never miss another video. In a moment, you'll see more videos popping up on the screen. Go ahead and click on those. You can keep watching more time management content.